The reasons for the fall of Rome are complex and go deep into various aspects: the crisis of the army, financial and economic problems, the moral decline of the ruling spheres and corruption. In addition, internal problems developed with external dangers that always hung over the vast Roman state. The campaign of the Germanic tribes, which began with the appearance of warlike Huns in Europe, was not in fact the cause of the fall of the empire. This is rather a consequence of the internal weakness of Rome, which, during its heyday and economic stability, fought and defeated much more powerful enemies. The decay of the Roman army. The decay of the Roman army, which was made up of German prisoners, who were transferred to different regions of the state, German mercenaries who fought under their own command, and the population of the empire, consisting almost exclusively of villagers, was natural. Local conscripts were appointed by landowners who did not care about sending their best workers to the army. And they were replaced by weaklings unsuitable for work. In the 3rd and 4th centuries, Roman soldiers no longer knew iron discipline, did not want to carry a heavy army burden, were not inclined to regular exercises and military drill. Revolts and murders increasingly occurred in the detachments. The lack of encouragement, which was the granting of Roman citizenship in exchange for service, led to the fact that the gaps in the ranks of the soldiers had to be filled with primitive and mediocre personalities. Despite the huge size of the army, about 500,000 soldiers, it could not successfully hold back the onslaught of the Germanic tribes within the empire. Part of the detachments, mostly of Germanic origin, was more inclined to disloyalty towards Rome, which could not pursue an effective and unified policy towards the Germanic tribes. The moral decline of the ruling elites. For many years, the strength of Rome was based on the ability of the Romans to organize the defense of the state from external and internal enemies, organize wars and govern more and more vast territories as the empire expanded. The Roman virtues consisted in the fact that the Romans knew how to sacrifice themselves for the public good. Over time, with the wealthy ruling elite, many representatives of the aristocracy began to care more about their own well-being than about the public. It was already life above the state, and not for it. The Roman aristocracy could no longer produce many good politicians or administrators from its ranks. The collapse of the authority of imperial power. The authority of the emperors depended on many factors: how efficient this or that ruler was, whether he had the support of the army, the Roman people and the aristocracy. Also, successes in foreign policy, the economic situation in the country or successful military campaigns strengthened the position of the emperors. The uprisings of the legions, the raids of foreign forces, with which the Roman army coped with ever-increasing difficulties, undermined the authority of the authorities. Unsatisfied Roman armies or groups of aristocratic conspirators often removed one ruler and appointed another candidate in his place. The new emperor was not always well received throughout the state. More than once, the governors of individual provinces or ambitious generals at the head of the legions did not agree with the new choice and supported another candidate, or were themselves tempted to win the imperial throne. The army, instead of guarding the borders, was involved in politics and civil wars, while being increasingly loyal to its leaders, and not to the legitimate authorities. During the 400-year period of the empire, individual rulers had to fight to stay on the throne. This weakened the Roman state economically and politically in the international scene. Economic weakening of the state. The cessation of offensive wars severely restricted the slave market, but did not reduce military spending, which consumed huge sums of money. Individual emperors tried to remedy this by increasing the issuance of coins, which, in the long run, led to inflation and the cost of goods. The burden on the inhabitants of the state increased, who fled to the cities, leaving vast territories useless for agriculture. The decrease in the population, which was the result of epidemics and devastating invasions, also negatively affected the finances of the state. All this ultimately affected the fact that the Great Rome could not withstand the hordes of barbarians. From the side it seems that the reason for the fall of Rome is external aggression. In fact, the origins come from the internal processes of the decomposition of power, the army, the economy and, let's call it that, the national idea.